This video today is really another of my many dreams that I've shared on YouTube in the past. The title of this video is called Wormwood, because if anybody has studied the Bible, you'll know what this is. It's a massive meteor that the Bible says will impact the earth during the end times, and the result of this impact will contaminate a third of all fresh water in the entire world. And it also says that because of this, a third of all mankind will die, and all the life that's in the oceans will die, animals will die. And last night I had a dream of something that definitely was a meteor. I work at Goodwill, and I was at a store that I've never seen before, but it was definitely Goodwill because of the people that were there. And we all decided to go on our lunch break, so we went across the street to a cafe, and we're sitting there eating, and somehow or another this cafe had a window sort of like facing where the kitchen was, and you got to see the outline or outskirts of the city, kind of like the buildings and the skyscrapers or whatever. And so I'm eating, and I look to my right because there's another window out here at the entrance of the cafe, and I see this bright comet going over the sky. And I comment to my other co-workers, hey, look at that meteor coming over. And they were kind of indifferent to it. They didn't seem to really care about it. And so I watched it, because it didn't go real fast. It kind of was kind of like this. And so I kept watching it, and it headed over towards the city. And eventually it went down, and then it disappeared. And so I'm like sitting there and thinking, I wonder if this will be on the news. And about the time that I was thinking, let's change the TV channel, because they had a TV in the cafe, that a huge nuclear fireball was seen, although a lot of it was black, you know, meaning it's throwing a lot of dirt up into the atmosphere. And so when this happened, we felt an earthquake. And in Georgia you don't feel earthquakes, because most of what the landmass of Georgia is made of is either bedrock. There's definitely bedrock foundations in Atlanta, and it was just shaken real violently. And so we got the TV on a TV channel, and the oddity is there's the news on, and some guy is saying, oh, don't be alarmed, ladies and gentlemen, this is just a movie you're watching, it's not real, meaning subconsciously your mind's trying to figure out maybe this is just a movie you're watching and not real life. And so then the TV channel would sort of like switch to some other thing dealing with other news stories. And then the next thing I remember was the outside streets and everything. All around me was just water. I mean, it had totally flooded the entire city. A lot of areas on the outskirts of the city were just totally submerged. And for some reason this cafe that I was in was it must have been buried, or actually mounted, or the foundation was mounted on a bedrock foundation, because it must have been elevated above regular street level, but it wasn't underwater. But you saw debris, and you saw parts of obvious buildings, I mean skyscrapers, and it's all just kind of floating past you. And I'm looking at everybody else thinking, how are we going to get out of here? We got no way to get through to the I guess back to work was what I was thinking, but I'm stupid enough to think that that would have mattered, because there probably isn't anything left of goodwill now anyway. So the story continues, whereby tramps and other kinds of survivors who I guess got out of the city lived in a back storeroom outside the cafe, and these are the kinds of creeps that you see in these you know, survival type movies where they kill people to survive, and they're barbaric and everything. And all I can remember, some dude comes over there because we're asking them, you know, we need to all work together because of this catastrophe, and anyway, they kill him. The guy goes out there to tell him. So I guess a lot of what was in my dream relates to definitely future events. Earthquakes can definitely cause fracturing of like the water table, and it doesn't have to be anything like you're near a massive amount of water like a lake or even the ocean for flooding to happen. And it doesn't even have to be like a rain event where flooding takes place. The earthquake could rupture known aquifers or water tables, and that could destroy foundations of major buildings in some cases. So the reason for the dream and for the video here is to say that when this happens, Wormwood will cause, we know, massive death in the oceans, but that's because most likely of an earthquake. The earthquake will kind of split open or crack the ocean's water system open, and it'll poison all the water that's there. As far as it being seawater now, it'll probably poison it with dirt and everything else, and that's why the all ocean life will die. Not so much from radiation or even from ultraviolet radiation. If a meteor hit that big, it would definitely snuff out the sunlight, but it would also cause, I know, massive earthquakes, because that's what a tsunami is a massive earthquake. But another thing that made me feel like making this video was that my mother had a dream of her own last night. The same night as I had my dream, she dreamed that Iran launched a nuclear weapon against the United States, and she didn't know where she was. She said it wasn't in Atlanta or Georgia, but it was someplace, and she said that they reported that Iran had nuked somewhere in the United States, or that they were using missiles across the entire country. But there was no mention even of Israel itself being hit. But we know that is the primary place that they're going to attack first. That's the main target that Iran will choose, because when they launch their missiles, that's the first country they hate, even more than the United States. They call us infidels, but the Israelis, the Jews themselves, are the most despised people on earth. So much so that any rogue country that got a hand on a nuclear weapon of some kind, that would be the first target. It would probably be launched at Jerusalem. And anybody that knows your Bible will know that God has said He's going to protect Israel this time Himself. I can imagine the news will report that they've launched it, and then the next thing you're going to hear is that same missile somehow was turned and was actually impacting into Tehran itself. And if it's not that scenario, it'll be that the Israelis have an anti-missile program and they'll destroy that missile, and then they will definitely launch a retaliation attack against Iran. Another thing in the Bible talks about a city called Edom, and I've done a video about this before. Iran has its own nuclear power plant. which is where they're getting all their uranium, which most people know is how they're going to create a nuclear device. And here Obama's handing them everything they need to do this. And the inevitable outcome has been, in the last couple of days, I've heard this on the news, they have determined Iran is testing nuclear triggers somewhere inside of the country. These are the detonators themselves that are used to trigger a nuclear explosion inside an atomic bomb, and they already have them. And where they get them? Well, it could have been either they got it from China, they could have got it from Russia, they could have got it from Turkey, they could have gotten it from, I would say, North Korea, because North Korea already has a missile. So all they need is a payload to put on the top of it, and then they could launch it from North Korea itself. All the Iranians would have to do is somehow secretly export it out of Iran into North Korea, and then they could put it on their own missile and launch it directly from there to Israel. They could launch it towards America, which most people feel North Korea is going to launch an attack against the United States very, very shortly, because we already know they have a missile. It's not to say they have the actual atomic material or the nuclear material to put on a warhead, but Iran, all indications are they have it, and now here they are testing nuclear triggers already, so they have all of what they need. And Obama has now completed the entire configuration of that bomb, because now he's going to give them all the assistance they need, and people are laughing about that. And it's like, when you wake up and you see a fireball coming through your front window, you're going to ask yourself, should I have been laughing when I was saying Obama wasn't going to help Iran get a nuclear weapon? It's too late then, because you're dead. Everybody's going to be dead. And I think there is a significance to my dream that I had last night, because God said in the Bible that in the end times, young men will dream, old men will have visions of catastrophe, of things that are going to happen. I mean, my mother and I both have something identical to each other. We had a dream of a nuclear device going off, or in my case, it was the Meteor. And I don't think it's a coincidence I'm having these dreams, or that she's having dreams, because the Bible already has said that these are warnings from God. These are warnings to say these are things that's going to happen, and if you don't listen, and if you want to sleep and you don't want to pay attention to these things, then he says, I will come as a thief in the night, which means somebody's going to come into your house and you'll never even know that it's happening until it's too late. And I think we need to pay attention, folks, to what's going on around us, and not pretend that Obama is a great leader, that you have this delusional attitude that he is, and think that he's going to take care of everything. Because our allies, the world community is condemning Obama for cooperating with Iran. And that should be a warning sign going off to Congress to say, we are not going to let him override his authority as the President of the United States to permit the things he's done from happening, using executive powers that he does not have the right to use. And here we're in a really, this is a serious national security issue for the protection of the United States, and that we as Americans should say, if you're there to protect us, we know you're not, and it's time for us as the people of this country to take back the government, because it's supposed to be there for our protection. It's not supposed to be that we're there for their protection. That's how Obama looks at every American citizen. You are here to serve me. You're here to serve the good of of this socialist regime that I have created in this country. So think about it very seriously in the future, because if you don't, you're going to wake up one morning, or you may not wake up at all, because you'll be dead already. And those bombs, folks, from Iran are serious, because we know they have them, and we know they're going to use them. So thank you all.